Hi, my name's Anna and this is where I share my making, predominantly knitting, but also crochet, sewing and whatever else takes my fancy. A lot more people watched my Rhinebeck recap than I was expecting, which was lovely. So thank you for all the nice comments on that. So in this video, I'm going to be chatting about 2 yarn events that we've been to, all of the patterns and knitwear that I saw whilst at the shows that have now gone into my want to make list, what came home with me from the shows, and then a little bit about what I've got planned for Advent. If you followed me on Instagram last year, you might know that I did something on there last year, so we're gonna talk a bit more about that at the end of the video. For those of you who are new, my boyfriend is one half of Garthenor Organic. So that is a yarn company based here in West Wales in the UK, so I help out at shows when I can. And we have done a lot this year, so I think, unless I've forgotten any, I think we've done 8 shows, 5 of which have been in the US, so it has been super busy. Yeah, so after Rhinebeck we had about 2 weeks at home before we headed to London for Make Joy, which is held in Woolwich, so East London, hosted by our friend Alison in a venue called Woolwich Works, and it's a 1-day show. And it's this lovely big light room with, there are a few more vendors this year. I don't actually know, I'd guess maybe 20 vendors, maybe a few more. And so everyone has a tabletop. It's really nice and relaxed. It's the 2nd year that the event has run and it has been added to. So as I say, there are a few more vendors. There were quite a lot of talks going on and workshops, and there was also a social afterwards hosted by Max and Vincent of Les Garçons. And it was just a great day. It was very chilled. We got the train in and managed to do it just with a couple of suitcases. Yeah, so super smooth setup. We were done earlier than we thought, so we had time to nip out and get a little pastry. And then it was a lovely day meeting new people, meeting long-term customers who we only see once a year because of geography, and also catching up with friends. And I had some nice chats with people, again, that I only get to see at the UK shows. So it was a fun day, slightly dampened by the fact that the Elizabeth line was closed once we'd packed up, which meant getting the train home again was a bit of a pain, but we got it done. We ended up clashing with like football match traffic, not traffic, passengers, and it was just very busy, but it was a really good event. I love the fact it's just 1 day. It makes it so much more relaxed and a bit less tiring. So congrats to Alison on another good year. I would recommend looking out for it again next year. I hope she runs it, and yeah, head on over. It's in a really lovely area as well, nice place to visit, go for a walk along the Thames. So yeah, that was a fun day. And then only a few days after that we headed to Heathrow, Terminal 3, which I now know quite well, and we flew to Seattle, stayed a night there, and then drove down to Portland, Oregon for Sacred Sheep, which is a yarn festival hosted by Ritual Dyes, who are a shop and dye studio, and they stock Garthenor in their shop, and that's how we heard about the show. And we saw it happening last year and we're very jealous. It looked like such a cool event, and so we're thrilled to be there in person this year. Sacred Sheep is hosted in a beautiful venue. I think it might have used to have been a sort of steelworks or something. There's still some of the like overhead crane gears and things up above, and it's a beautiful space filled with a lovely curated selection of vendors. It felt like a really nice sized show. I think if I was visiting I'd really enjoy it because it was enough to look at without being too overwhelming. They'd just set it all up really well. There was a huge community marquee outside, so you could just go and chill and knit. The merch tent was outside. There was a little sort of meet and greet talk area. Lots of lovely food trucks, which changed slightly each day, and also a couple of sheep, which was great. You'll see them in a minute. So yeah, it was a lovely selection of vendors. We felt very lucky to be one of them. And the show ran over 3 days. So there was a Friday evening VIP event where attendees got to come in before everyone else. They had drinks, small plates. And yeah, it was just felt like a really fun evening. Lots of shopping was happening. And just before that, actually, which was a really nice touch, they did an hour of vendor shopping, which meant that we could kind of all have a little chat and get to see each other's stands without having to leave the stand during the show when it got busy. So that worked really nicely. Then Saturday, Sunday, there were time slots, I think 3 or 4 time slots throughout the day, which again was just a really nice touch in that it sort of felt consistently nicely busy. There weren't these sort of huge influx of people at the beginning of the day and then lulls. It was quite sort of steady throughout the day, which I think made it lovely for us as vendors. Meant we got to actually chat to people properly and no one felt rushed or sort of pinned into the stand, and on the flip side, much nicer for the attendees. So yeah, really well organised by Martha and Rachel and their team, and we had a great time. We had one hiccup on the trip, and that was that our hire car broke down. If you follow either of Garth or myself on Instagram, you might have seen this already, but we were, on the Thursday before the show started, we were driving up to Staples just to get a few posters that we'd had printed, and we were about 2-3 minutes from Staples, which is sort of North Portland. So we were going up the interstate. We got stuck in rush hour traffic. We timed it really badly. So it's taking us quite a while anyway. And then suddenly on the interstate, which is, I guess it was like one of our smaller motorways kind of thing. So it's 3 lanes of traffic, very fast, busy road. The engine of our car just futtered to a stop, and Johnny lost all power, and he'd started moving over because he could tell something wasn't quite right, but just before we got to the hard shoulder, completely died. So he managed to sort of trickle our way onto the hard shoulder and stop, but that was quite scary because we were between the 3-lane interstate and a slipway. So there's that like triangle where the 2 roads meet. Yeah, we were stuck there for 3 hours. The hire company were a bit useless. At one point we got put through to roadside assistance in the UK. I won't go into it. It was really annoying. And as I say, quite scary. The other thing with American roads is their lorries don't have speed limits. So, well, they might do, but they're not restricted in the same way. So in the UK, lorries and larger vehicles have a restricted speed limit compared to cars. That's not the case in America. So they were bombing along either side of us for 3 hours. Best not to think too much about it. Luckily, we were safe and we were very grateful when the recovery guy showed up. So it's never smooth sailing, is it, with these trips? There's always something. Rhinebeck was the boxes showing up. This time was the car. But thankfully, the replacement vehicle lasted the rest of the trip without any bother. But I did, similar to what I did in my last video, I took as many clips as I could throughout the show and around it. So I'll put them in now with a bit of a voiceover so you can get a sense of the show and what we got up to. On the Thursday, once we'd finished setup, we popped a few blocks down the road to visit Ritual Dyes. They, as I said before, stock Garthenor, so it was very exciting to see that on the shelves alongside a lot of other lovely brands. Ritual Dyes have their own bases, which they dye in-house, and then they also stock others. So you've got lots of Wandering Flock on the table and so many beautiful colours. It had such a cosy atmosphere, and this is just a building that I loved that we drove past most days, covered in plant pots. And a beautiful rainbow just before everything went a little bit wrong and we were stranded here for 3 hours. Anyway, this is everyone finishing setup on Friday, making it all look nice. It was in a very cool part of town, and this is just the calm before the storm, as it were. I got very few shots of our booth, but here you can see an overview, and this is the first lot of VIPs arriving on the Friday afternoon. All enjoying their small plates. They also had cocktail vouchers, which I think were enjoyed. And just like that, the first evening was done. This is the community tent with the merch stand on the right. Obviously, a lot more busy during the day. This was us heading home after the Friday evening. And then Saturday morning, there was a large queue waiting to come in, but we were ready for them. And there were these two beautiful Valley Black-nosed sheep, which you will see dotted throughout the video. Here they are. There was a shearing demonstration on the Saturday, and you can sort of see a before and after here of the two sheep. And the shearer was great. He was super knowledgeable and answering everyone's questions. And I feel like it's great that people see where the wool actually comes from and how the sheep are treated, i.e. very well, very calm, and they're so chilled during shearing. So it was cool to see that. I had a very glamorous little lunch break tucked behind the stand. On the Sunday, I had a bit of time to properly show you all the stands. So this is made by Hayley Bailey. Yes, that is her real name. So she has her lovely yarn and wool washes, and then Verb for Keeping Warm were there. Nice muted palette. This was Robin and Pirate, who hand-dyed cotton, so they had threads as well as full skeins of yarn. Some beautiful pottery, which I didn't think would quite survive the suitcase ride home. And next to them was, or opposite them, was Handmade by Renee, I think is the name, with these neon project bags. And they were under this amazing industrial, not sure what it is, Tumalo fibres were super lovely. We got to have a chat with them. And this is the magpie stand, looking nice and colourful. You'll see all their notions and bits along the front. And then they had some beautiful plume, which is their silk mohair base. I really love this shade. Next to them was a wandering flock, and their colours were so fun, and their samples. And then we have Google's tools, which is where I might have picked up a couple of bits. Then this is Lamb and Kid, who we were lucky enough to visit their shop on Bainbridge Island when we were over in Seattle. And this is the spin cycle stand. I don't think I've ever seen so much spin cycle in one place. It was a lot of fun to see all the different colours together. This one is one of my favourites. I think it's called Dark Side. So dark and moody with some pops of neon. And yes, they had all the different bases from sport weight through to chunky. This was the Wool Folk stand. I loved this tweedy yarn that they had. It felt beautiful knit up, and their whole stand just felt super luxurious, and lots of lovely samples as well. Then we've got Ace and Jig, who I guess are based in Portland, clothing company, and they had some fun like fabric offcuts and bits. And then on to Shelly Can. I do own quite a few of her stickers now. They're wonderfully sparkly. And she has all her fun pin badges and markers as well. And this just gives you a little bit of an overview. So this was the opposite end to where we were. And that's looking back. So we were right down the end on the left. Such a cool space. This is Wool and Palette. So this is all naturally dyed yarn with really bold colours. I loved that they were not quite what you'd expect from naturally dyed. Then we have Reiko, who do these beautiful bead charms and jewellery, and Elena Gabrielle, who's an illustrator and textile designer. Wren and Bird had lots of sashiko materials, and then this is the Farmer's Daughter Fiver stand, and I fell in love with this sample. It was so soft, and I loved the colours. Amarisu were there, and then I couldn't resist getting another clip of the sheep, so this is the one that was shorn yesterday, sporting a very fetching jumper. They were super duper friendly as well, so chilled given how many people were saying hello to them. And on the Sunday we felt very at home, as we had some very British weather. It rained most of the day, but it was fine. And then this is Alex from Soothe the Folk, the embroidery artist. She was doing an amazing job, just stitching away all day. And that's a little sneak peek of something that came home with me. There was also a Stroop waffle van on the Sunday, which was delicious. And just like that, it was all over. I didn't get any footage of clearing up because we were ready to get out of there. But on the Monday, we had some free time, so we headed slightly out of the town centre and went to the Japanese gardens, which were stunning. It was just the sort of breath of fresh air and calm that we needed after a busy show. So you walked up the hillside and then you were up in the trees and it was so quiet. I think we just missed the peak of the autumn colours, but it was still stunning with lovely views over the city as well. And just like that, it was time to head home again. So we had a little bit of a wander around the Tuesday morning and then drove north back up to Seattle to catch our flight home. I hope you enjoyed seeing some little snippets. I don't think I filmed quite as much, but it was a lot travelling again, having only just got back. It felt like we'd only just got back from the States to then go all the way back to the West Coast again. So it took me a few days to get into it, but yeah, we had a great trip, and the Japanese gardens on the Monday were stunning. It was just what we needed, super relaxing and just a bit of calm. And because I mean, at these shows you meet a bizarre amount of people. It's sort of, when else would you meet hundreds of people every hour for days and days whilst jet lagged? So it was nice to just not need to talk to anyone, just have our own time and space to wander. And yeah, that was lovely. I can't remember what order I said I was going to do that in. Let's start with patterns that I've seen. So I'm just going to get my laptop open because I can't remember them all off the top of my head. So knitwear that I spotted, some of it people came over to show us, some of it is patterns that people were shopping for, some of it is people I ran after and asked them what they were wearing. Thankfully that is quite normal at a yarn show and no one seemed to mind too much. So I'm just going to run through them. I'll pop the link, the Ravelry links in the description below. If not, I'm sure you can search the designer and find them on their websites as well. The first pattern I'm going to mention is the Nebula by Andrea Mowry. Very popular pattern, you may well have come across it. It just looked so easy to wear, so cozy. It's got some nice shoulder details. You can pick if you've got short sleeve or long sleeves, and there's a sort of curved hem at the bottom. and I saw it knit in quite a lot of different yarns. I do actually still have some fluff from a yarn story that I was gifted when I worked there, and it's never quite, I've not quite found the right thing because I have 3 skeins of it, but I think it might work quite well. I need to do a swatch because I think that's technically a sport weight potentially. I need to have a look at the needle size, but yeah, I thought that would make a really cozy, easy to throw on jumper. Next pattern I want to talk about is called Gale, and I first saw this a little while ago because Rachel, who is one half of Rachel Dye's, knit a version using, I think it was Garthenor number 4 and a silk mohair in this lovely sort of soft grey colour. And I saw it on Instagram, and she was telling us at the show, like, it gets so many compliments and people love it. And then I saw someone else wearing the same pattern at the show, but in this really bright, like, grass green, and it also looked really lovely. It's an Aran weight knit on 5 and 6 millimeter needles, but I just love this sort of zigzag I-cord running down the front. It's just a bit more interesting than a normal button band. Yeah, I don't have any yarn in mind for it, so if you have any suggestions, let me know. But yeah, I think that would be so cozy, and I don't really have any like chunky cardigans, so I think that would be nice to wrap up in. So the next one is called the Roomy Raglan by Jules Efterfield, and she is a lovely customer and also designer. She was wearing this design and I loved it, and coincidentally one of her friends who helped test knit the pattern made it in a Garthenor yarn held with a 4-ply, so it's bulky plus fingering, so you're knitting it on a 6.5 millimeter needle, so you might need to hold a few strands together, but in doing so, her version, she'd created this really nice marled fabric, which I loved, and it just looked so cozy, perfect for the current weather we're having. It's partly why I'm in a slightly different location today, is that there is no daylight, and the room I normally sit in to film has a really noisy roof, and it's currently raining, so you wouldn't have been able to hear a word I was saying. So days like today, I feel I need a jumper like this, so I might go raid the shelves of the mill and see what I can find to make that. Another super popular pattern that I saw lots of people wearing was Andrew Mowry's Ooey Gooey Cowl. So Ooey Gooey was her Rhinebeck sweater this year. You might have seen it. It has this sort of wave motif with the dots. And she has then also released that same motif as a cowl. And she has used a fluff, a sort of heavier weight DK fluff, sport weight fluff, with some spin cycles, so you have the solid fluff and then the colour changing in the spin cycle. And I very nearly bought yarn to make it, however I did make her cowl based off her Rhinebeck jumper last year, so I thought I'll get a bit more wear out of that before I make another one, but I saw some really cool colour combinations for that. Then a really nice design that I was helping a customer pick out yarn for was the Key cardigan by Petite Knit, which is a worsted weight cardigan. Yeah, it's just got this really fun colourwork motif. I think it would be quite simple. It doesn't look like there's any long floats or anything, so you get the interest without it being a pain with lots of floats and things. And I also saw someone wearing her Olga jacket, which I have considered making for quite a while now, and it has bumped it right up to the top of the list. It just looked like a really nice fit. I love the sort of wide cuffs. It doesn't come in at the sleeves. Yeah, so that has also jumped up the list. Another one that I saw a few people wearing, and one that I think looks so different depending on what colour combinations you pick, is the Norma sweater by My Favourite Things. Super popular pattern. I actually have yarn for this in my stash, and I think this might be my New Year cast on. I have some Woolly Mammoth Fibre Company yarn for this, so it's a lace weight held with a sport weight, and you need 3 colours, and it seems to be a really lovely shape on everyone. I like that it's got the sort of wide neck, but it doesn't feel like it would suffocate you. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to casting that one on. So that is a must in the next month or two. And then the final design I wanted to tell you about, again, is super popular, so you may well have heard of it, is the Zakuri cardigan by Noriko Ichikawa. I'm very sorry if that's if I butchered that, but as I say, it will be on the screen and down below. Lovely cardigan. I was chatting to a really nice guy who was picking out some yarn, and he was wearing this and it looked so smart. I think the ribbing details and the collar just make it look really nice, and it has a lovely shape, sort of elevated basic, I guess, and that's done in worsted weight, so again a nice sort of cozy fabric, but you could wear it for quite a lot of the year. You're not going to be boiling. Yeah, so that is another one that I keep coming back to on Ravelry, and then that's the first time I'd seen it in real life. So I hope you liked some of those. I think it's always fun to see what other people are making and discover new designers and see things in different colourways. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that little pattern roundup. If you did, let me know, and I'll maybe do some more in the future and go into a bit more detail about each one. But that was just a little whistle-stop tour of things that caught my eye whilst we were at both Make Joy and Sacred Sheep. And then I guess this is the penultimate thing, is to show you what came home with me. So as I said, I didn't buy any yarn. I have been so lucky to go to so many yarn shows this year, and I have acquired a lot of yarn, and I'm really excited about it all. I've got projects for like 95% of it, and I'm just looking forward to making them, and I don't want it to ever become stressful that I've got all this sitting there waiting to be used. So I felt like I had a really nice number of future projects planned and yarn for that, and so I didn't feel the need to add to that. It was very tempting. I won't say it was easy to come away with no yarn, but yeah, I don't regret leaving anything behind. I made a couple of notes so that if I need anything in the future, I've got some colour ideas, but yeah, nothing came home with me yarn wise. However, I do have some bits to show you. So Goobles, who are a sort of illustration and notions company, were there from Korea. So we know Yunjae because she runs a yarn shop called Nougat Bar Knits, and she is a stockist of Garthanor, and then so her and her friend have then set up Goobles. I think they might have been over at Unravel actually, but I didn't go to that show, so it's the first time I'd seen it in person. And they have these two really cute characters which sort of feature across their designs. So it says knit, purl, repeat, knit one, bind off all remaining stitches, and then there's these two helping each other wind some yarn. And this is such a handy size. I feel like either as a project bag or as just like a little popping out, need a few bits, or I need to take my lunch with me somewhere. So yeah, Johnny picked this up for me, and I was very, very happy to receive it. He also grabbed me, which is one thing I did have on my list, these really sweet markers from them. So there, you can hopefully see scale there. They're really quite small, but there's a pair of socks, ball of yarn, skein of yarn, and a little jumper. So yeah, they are Google's tools on Instagram. So that was very sweet. And then I also spotted, well, I've seen it before, this beautiful tin of stitch markers from Magpie Fibres. So Magpie are a yarn company. They dye beautiful yarn, but they also have such high quality notions. So I have a pair of their little scissors in a little leather case, and they are my favourites. And so when I saw this lovely tin which says "You're Making Matters," which I thought was a really sweet thing to put on there. I don't know how to show you this without tipping markers everywhere, but it maybe if I take the markers out, actually, there we go. So it's this round metal tin, and then it swings open and you've got a compartment there to put all of your stitch markers in, and it came with an assortment of small, medium, large and bulb pin markers. And the other thing that swayed me to get it was that during the show my nails were painted exactly this colour, so I matched, which was good fun. I actually asked Johnny to nip and get that for me when he was on a break, and he also came back with, as a surprise, this comb. So it's a knitwear, I don't know what they're called, it's for like getting pilling off your garments. So I have one of the electric sort of shaver ones, but I've heard that they can sometimes be a little bit harder on your garments, and also because you're just chopping off the fibres where they've worked their way out of the fabric, the whatever's left in the fabric still needs to work its way out, whereas if you comb them out then you get the whole fibre. I don't know if it really matters, but I just thought this would be so handy if I pop a jumper on and I'm like, oh god, this could really do with a bit of a freshen before I head out. It also has their lovely little feather logo on there, so I just thought that was a very nice version of a debobbling comb. We were neighbours with Dagan, who I think is probably best known for the baseball hats that you see and a lot of people wearing at the American shows. So they say knit or wool on them, and she does different colourways for each shows, but she also makes some lovely notions. So I got this really sweet little fish pouch, and it's going to be great for notions, and it's got the fun lining. And then Johnny got me a little marker from Shelley Can, which says maker on it, so I've put that on the zip there. And super handily, the red section of this marker is 1 inch, so if you're ever doing a pattern and you need like an inch of ribbing, I have to get my tape measure out, I can just use this little guy. And from our neighbour on the other side, we were next to Made by Hayley Bailey, and she is a yarn dyer. She had some beautiful colours, and she also designed the crochet cardigan that was part of the knit along, make along for the event. As well as all of that, she also makes really lovely hand creams, wool washes and sprays, and they smelt divine. It took us a long time to pick which scent, but we got this bottle of woolly refreshing spray. So it's a refresher spray for hand knits and everything else, and we got the agave and guava scent. So she was saying it's just sort of gives everything a bit of a freshen if you've worn your hand knits or crochet or anything, and it doesn't need a full wash and reblock. This just gives it a bit of a freshen. It is refreshing. Yeah, it's got some lanolin in as well, so that's always good for wool, but you can put it on anything and it just smells delightful. So I have been spritzing that on when I've been putting my jumpers on, especially sort of like hats and things that have been in the back of the cupboard that I haven't worn for a little bit. They're not dirty, they just need a freshen. So that was from our neighbour on the other side. And then the final thing that I got at the show is super special. So opposite us was Farmer's Daughter Fibres, and Candice, who runs that, I think she set up, or at least is a huge supporter of, a charity called Sisters United, and so they were doing lots of fundraising for that at the event. There was a silent auction on the Friday evening, there was a raffle throughout, and they also had these limited edition project bags. So the fabric was dyed and donated by Spin Cycle, and then Beautiful Sister has made up these project bags. So it's got this clip at the top which acts as a handle, and then that opens out and then poppers in there, and then you've got this nice big, surprisingly spacious actually, project bag. And so I did pick one of those up on the Friday evening. I was umming and ahhing because they were quite a treat, but I loved them and I thought the fabric was beautiful, and I was very pleased I did because they did sell out of them. But what makes this extra special is that I got it customized. So let me just put this little clip back on. Yeah, so I got it customized. I got these scissors embroidered onto it. So we had Dagon and Ritual Dyes on one side of us. We had Made by Hayley Bailey on the other side of us. And then just in front was Alex of Soothe the Folk. And she is a chain stitch embroidery artist. And she was customizing things for people. So lots of people were getting their hats done or jackets or project bags. And so I asked her to do these little scissors on my new project bag for me. And I love it so much. It's so special. And she was absolutely lovely. We got to have a bit of a chat with her over the weekend, and yeah, just a really cool thing that you could buy something there to get customized. I saw a few people getting their like little fish done. Ritual Dyes sell really lovely needle cases, so some people were getting those stitched into, and I just hadn't seen it at an event before. I thought it was a really cool idea, and being an ex-textile student, I love sewing machines and seeing how they all work, and this one was really, really special. So yeah, that was lovely, and I'm so chuffed with my little bag. So that is what came home with me, and I'm thrilled with it. It was sort of lovely things. Last thing to briefly touch on is Advent. December is fast approaching, and last year on Instagram, I posted a video every day of Advent showing what I'd been making that day, and it was really fun. There were a couple of days where I forgot to film anything, and it got a little bit stressful that evening because I didn't want to miss a day, but it was really nice. People sort of followed along, and I enjoyed doing it. So I'm thinking of doing the same thing again. I'm just working out, I want there to be a bit more of a theme this year, and for it to be a little bit more planned. So I'm just working on that at the moment, but keep an eye out on my Instagram. It's @AnnaUntangled, and that will start on Monday, the 1st of December. Anyone else find it really satisfying that the 1st of the month is on a Monday? But also, how is it December? Yes, so that will be over there. I might also try and put them on YouTube Shorts. I don't know if anyone watches them. I don't personally, but if I've made the video, I might as well put it up. So you'll be able to watch them there. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Happy making. Bye. And I had a little audience for all of that video sat up behind me, because when it's raining, top of the wardrobe is Basil's favourite spot. Bless her. She's having a sleepy weekend.